Rhonda Jerome has served the constituents of North Charleston's District 2 or North Charleston City Council for over 20 years. Now she wants to serve the entire city of North Charleston as mayor. I talked one-on-one with the councilwoman for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. North Charleston City Councilwoman and now North Charleston mayoral candidate Rhonda Jerome, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. You know, for 20 years, you served as the North Charleston City Councilwoman representing District 2. And now, as of recent, you are a mayoral candidate for the city of North Charleston. Tell me, what got you from 20 years on the city council to now being a mayoral candidate for the city of North Charleston?
Well, when we learned that the mayor was not going to seek re-election, I had numerous people approach me and ask me to run for mayor. So I talked to friends and family, prayed about it, and made the decision actually on Christmas Day to run for mayor.
And you talk about on Christmas Day running for mayor. When did you find out that the current mayor, wasn't going to run?
He kept dropping hints along the way. So around November, we kind of figured he was not going to run for re-election.
And when did you personally know that he was going to actually support someone else?
When I went to tell him I was going to run for mayor, he told me he was endorsing someone else, but he wished me the best of luck. So,
and I know, as I mentioned, Councilwoman, you've been on council for 20 years with experience. So why do you think the current mayor didn't support you for mayor?
I don't know the reason. I think that's a question you need to ask him when you interview him, but I don't hold it against him. You know, I'm going to do what I have to do, and his support would have been nice, but I think I'll be successful without it as well.
Now, I'll get to interview him, but I actually requested to do an interview with him a couple of weeks ago, but he had to cancel, and I did ask the office if he's going to reschedule, so I'm hoping to get him on Quintin's Close-Ups so we can talk about this and other issues. So what can you do right now, Councilwoman, without the mayor's support?
What can I do without the mayor's support as far as
mayor and as mayoral candidate?
I can do anything I want to do without the mayor's support. It's a race for the people. It's not a race of popularity contest. To be mayor, to have his endorsement, it opens the doors for more financial support, of course. But I don't think this is going to be a race about how much money the candidate has. I think this is going to be a race about the people. Money's going to be nice, but if it takes $200,000 to win the mayor's race, you could build a house for $200,000. And I would hope that I could do that with a lot less than $200,000.
So, and I'm being, well.
You go ahead, play devil's advocate.
Oh, yeah, no worries. About then, how much money do you currently have to win this race?
So far, we've raised probably about $15,000-$20,000.
And what's your ultimate goal?
I think we can win this race with probably less than $75,000.
And I know that obviously you've been talking to the people in the community. So what exactly are they saying about the future of North Charleston?
Well, it depends on who you ask, because we have problems in North Charleston when it comes to eviction rates, when it comes to crime rates, when it comes, do I feel safe in my neighborhood? We raised the minimum wage in the city of North Charleston to $15 an hour. I think we were probably one of the first to do that. But even now, that's still low. The way the cost of living is rising, I think it's going to come to the point that we're going to have to come before council at budget time and say, hey, we need to raise that again. So, but the people are saying, we want a safe city. We don't want to be run out of our homes. We want to we want to go back like it used to be, where we could be outside, we could be safe, we didn't have to worry about, is there going to be a drive-by shooting? My house is falling apart, I can't find anybody to help me. There used to be neighbors helped neighbors. We don't have that anymore. we need to get back to that.
And I want to talk to you more about that in just a second, Councilwoman. But currently, what is the cost of living right now in the city of North Charleston?
Cost of living right now is the average rent is about $900 a month, and that's on the low side. I can tell you my son recently rented an apartment, and it was 1 bedroom, and it was $1,500 a month. So some people are paying in excess of $2,000 a month to live, and that is just, in my opinion, way too much.
Now, how many people in North Charleston actually rent versus own their houses?
I would say, and I'm just talking off the top of my head, I'm not giving you facts, okay? But I would say we probably have about 60% rental in North Charleston.
And where exactly is there the highest rate of rentals in the city?
In the north area, I would believe. And then your apartments, we just keep building apartments after apartments after apartments after apartments. And, used to be, it was hotel after hotel after hotel. And now we've moved on from the hotels. We're getting apartments now.
Now, how many apartments have been built at a fairly consistent rate over the past 2 years in the city of North Charleston?
I can tell you in District 2, on one road alone, over 5,500 apartments was slated to go on that one road.
Wow.
Right now, you have apartments going up on Montague. You have apartments going up on International.
Sure.
There's the Tanger.
Right.
We have apartments going up beside hotels now. So, people don't want, not people, some people do not want to live in a house. It's, why do I want to take care of a house when I can just rent an apartment? I don't have to do anything.
So, has the city been able to poll these people to see how many people actually want to live in an apartment versus actually owning a home?
I don't think it's ever been polled. I think I think it goes by demand. Because as fast as we build the apartments, they're gone.
Wow.
There's no vacancies.
Yikes. So where is the demand now for more apartments in North Charleston?
It's in the north area. You have, like I said, 5,500 on Ingleside Boulevard.
Sure.
Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 apartment complexes on Shipley.
Oh, yes.
And then you've got the ones going up where Davis and Floyd used to be on Montague.
Right.
And the ones on International.
Sure.
So, and then you have the ones behind Canes on Rivers Avenue.
Sure.
And across from the Sphinx on Rivers Avenue,
right.
You have that new one. So they're everywhere.
Wow. So in the next 5 years, Councilwoman, how many apartments do you all project to have in the city of North Charleston?
I don't think that number's ever been discussed, Quintin. I would hope this is the end of it for a while. I mean, we even have apartments beside City Hall.
Right.
Where the theater used to be.
Right. So, and is your term up, or can you go on if you do lose this race? If you were to lose the race, I should say.
Well, I'm actually running for both races at the same time.
Okay. So
if I win both seats, then my district seat would go up for special election.
Wow. So, say for instance, Councilwoman, hypothetically, if you were to get back on city council with the new mayor, would you all be in favor, say, for an apartment moratorium?
Yes, I definitely would be. I think we need a hotel moratorium, and I think we need an apartment moratorium. Enough is enough.
Is there enough land for hotels and apartments in the city of North Charleston right now?
For some reason, that land just mysteriously appears whenever you turn around. I had no idea that Davis and Floyd property was being built with apartments until I rode down Montague going to an event at the stadium. And I'm like, what's going on there? And, oh, that's apartments. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. But here's my concern.
Yes, ma'am.
My concern is we're building all of these apartments. And then 10, 15 years down the road, are these apartments going to turn into slum properties and not be to the standards that they're being built today?
What are the standards now versus 10 years ago?
Well, of course, you have to be the hurricane strength and all of that. But a lot of it depends on your property management. You know, get a bad property manager in there who doesn't really care about that property, then it becomes slum property. Then you have to fight to get it back up to code.
So what would be your 5-point plan to stop that as far as code enforcement?
I think our code enforcement does an awesome job, but it's going to take code and building working together in unison to make that happen.
So currently right now, Councilwoman, where exactly are there slum properties in the city of North Charleston?
They're all over. You can't just say they're in the south end of the city because they're not, because I have homes in District 2 that need to be demolished. I have, there's homes all over the city. Some that should have been demolished 10 years ago that are finally getting approval to be demoed. So it's a citywide problem. It's not just one section of the city that's a problem. It's all over.
So as far as a backlog, how many years are we talking as far as this right now?
As far as
many of these properties that are now, yes, ma'am.
Oh, 5+ on some properties, because some of them are held up in foreclosure, so you're having to deal with the bank. Some of them's air properties, so you're having to deal with that. Does it make it right? No, because your neighbors have to deal with that unsightly house next door to them. So I would love to find a way to make that timeline move faster.
What would be your ideal timeline if you were mayor?
I think if a house is vacant and in bad shape, I think it should be gone within a year minimum. Not maximum, excuse me. Not minimum, maximum, yes. I think a year is plenty of time.
Yes, ma'am. And what set of rules will you have for those homeowners and then those landlords as well?
And that's the whole thing, Quintin. We've got to sit down with these homeowners that are renting the properties, and we have to sit down with the landlords, and you have to say, from here on out, these are the rules that you will abide by. These are the penalties if you don't, and you hold them accountable. They have to be held accountable.
Have you been able to hold them accountable as city councilwoman?
No, I have not. I wish I could say I have, but we tried through the police department to do the landlord meeting, the landlord association.
Right.
We had a handful to start off with. I attended those meetings, and I think maybe 12 to 15 showed up. But the ones that showed up are the ones that weren't having the problems. We need the ones to show up where all of our problems are occurring, and that wasn't happening.
And has the police department been able to track those folks down?
No, I don't think so.
Wow.
And that's one of the things, the police department doesn't necessarily have to report to council. They report to the mayor, but they don't have to report to us. So unless the mayor shares that information with council, a lot of times we're kept in the dark.
So what has the mayor not shared with y'all that you actually found out through social media or other folks?
Oh, well, a lot of times we find out that a lawsuit's been filed, but we find out about it in the newspaper. I'm a firm believer that if the city is sued, city council should be made aware of what we're being sued for and be told these reasons, and that doesn't always happen.
And as far as the budget, have you all been able to look at the budget and find out what's being put in the budget?
Oh, yes. The budget has to come before council, and we have to, that's the one thing council really has total control over is the budget. So if the council doesn't vote for that budget to pass, it's not going to pass.
And I'm going to get to that in just a second, but let me take it to you. Let me go back to May 8th. This is coming from WCSC. A member of the North Charleston City Council will have to find a new place to live after a vote by the North Charleston Sewer Department Monday night. The district voted unanimously to terminate a contract that allowed Councilwoman Rhonda Jerome and her husband to live on the district's property in exchange for security services. Jerome says she and her husband have lived on the city's sewer department property free of charge since 1989. She says she wonders why, after 20 years, it is now suddenly an issue. So why wasn't this an issue when you were first on council?
That's the $1 million question. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of this because a lot of stuff is still pending. We've been on this property since 1989, which is 34 years. I ran 4 elections for city council while we lived on this property, and nothing was ever said. And now that I'm running for mayor, it seems to be a problem. But I do want to clarify one thing. We don't live here for free. We buy our home. We have our mortgage. We pay for cable. We pay for everything. The only thing we don't pay is, I guess, what you would call lot rent. Because it's a double wide that we pay for, that we put on here. And we don't pay a power bill because it has one of the big sewer pump stations hooked up to it, which pulls a lot of power. So people that say, oh, she's lived there for 34 years, she hasn't had to pay anything. That's not true. We pay our mortgage. We pay our utility. We pay just like anybody else. So it's not for free. Yes, and my husband does security in exchange for putting the home here, and that was at the request of Minor Crosby.
Oh, yeah. And going back to what you just said, you said you ran 4 elections and there was no problems, but isn't that a conflict of interest?
No, not really, because it's in the district that I serve. You know, I raised 2 kids here. This is their family home. And we asked them, before I ran for city council, I went to them to make sure it was okay. It was not a problem. And so every re-election, we just carried on, and the use of land was claimed on my statement of economic interest every year.
And did you show that copy to the city or the sewer department?
They have it, yes.
And how long have they had that on file?
Oh, I would think since I first ran in 1999.
And I know you mentioned earlier, you said that, hey, you don't live on the property for free. You pay your mortgage and all this type of stuff. So how many times on council did you recuse yourself when it came to sewer district related issues?
Every single time. Every time any item that was on the agenda for the North Charleston Sewer District, I recused myself and stated that the reason for that recusal was that I lived on the property.
Now, did you receive any payment or help from the city as far as those other utilities?
No.
Now, the city of Charleston, I called the city of North Charleston, and they said there's no business license for your husband as far as providing security services. So why is that the case?
That was just an agreement before, back in 1989, between the North Charleston Sewer District and my husband, that he would do the security in exchange for putting the property here. So there was never any money exchanged. So I guess there was never a reason for a business license.
Now, was your husband actually approved by SLED to actually do security by chance?
No, but he does have a concealed weapons permit through SLED.
Through SLED, okay. And did they show that to the sewer department or the city of North Charleston?
I know the sewer district knows he has the CWP.
Okay.
Because firearms are not authorized on the property, so they had to be notified.
Now, did that agreement from 1989 to right now, did that ever change? Did that ever fluctuate?
No. Nothing's changed since we moved here in 89.
And what exactly did your husband provide to the sewer district to allow him to provide security to that property?
What has he been provided?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Just the right to put the home here. He walks this property on a daily basis. Okay. So if there's keys left in the ignition of the vehicles, he pulls those keys out, locks the door, secures them, takes the keys the following morning to the warehouse. He checks all of the building doors. If they're unlocked, he has a list that he has to go down for somebody to come out to lock the doors back. To prevent theft.
Right.
When Mr. Crosby asked my husband to move out here, there was a lot of theft. There wasn't but one building, and it was wide open, and that was the whole purpose. He's like, hey, Joe, how about put you a place on the property and take care of it for me? And so it was a verbal agreement.
Now, how long was that verbal agreement was supposed to last?
Never had a time limit on it.
Hmm. Now, how many times does your husband actually check those the buildings and those equipments that you just mentioned?
Monday through Thursday, because they're closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Now, since 1989, Councilwoman, does that particular property have cameras?
It does.
So why then does your husband need to provide security for them?
That camera's not going to pick up keys in an ignition in a vehicle, is it? That camera's not going to pick up an unlocked door on a building, is it?
I mean, how many cameras do they have on the property?
Have no idea.
Okay. Now, you said that you found out about obviously your contract being terminated. So you said you found out from the news media that, so, and it was on the agenda, but when did you exactly find out when you were evicted from this property?
Well, actually, the night of the meeting when they voted to end that agreement, back in, I'm not sure how long ago it was, Quintin, when they were talking about Palmetto Commerce Parkway flyover coming through.
Yes.
We signed that right to occupy. That was when that agreement came into effect. And the reason was that road is slated to come right through the middle of our house.
Okay.
So that was the reason that agreement was made. So it wasn't made in 89 when we first got on here. There was circumstances that would say, okay, so when the road comes through, we'll give you 30 days. Well, that road's been supposed to be coming through here for over 10 years now. There's no road.
Okay, so you talk about Palmetto Commerce, and I was just right there yesterday on my run. But what were the design changes for Palmetto Commerce?
The changes, well, what it's supposed to do is fly over Ashley Phosphate Road, and then it would kind of come around the backside of Spivey's Mobile Home Park, kind of lining up with the railroad track.
Right.
So it would come through the middle of my house and take out the back part of the trailer parks on Star Road.
Oh.
And then it would wind up parallel with Ward Avenue.
Right.
So Reward, which is just a little side street,
Yes,
would become Ward Avenue, and it would that would be the entryway. That would be a 4-lane highway.
4-lane highway.
Yeah.
So what is the timeline now? What is the status on that right now?
Your guess as good as mine.
Oh.
I know the last time I talked to Revere Group, they're still working with the Air Force trying to, because they have the clear zones and all this that they're having to deal with. So it's still up in the air.
Still up in the air. And Councilwoman, let me ask you this. So how long did they give you to really move off the property after this vote?
30 days.
So when do you expect to leave now?
Well, no, let me refrain. It was 40. Okay. They changed it to 45 days.
So when did they change that? Just recently?
When they sent the letter to the House, well, actually they sent it by email, stating that they had agreed to give us 45 days instead of 30 days.
Wow.
Which will be the 25th of June.
Right. And so will your husband continue to do security despite this?
No.
Okay. Let me turn back over to the election. As you've just mentioned, you obviously are running after 20 years of being on city council. And I know obviously you work with the mayor a lot. So will your administration be an extension of Keith Summey?
No.
How so?
Because I have different ideas. I'm not saying that the Mayor Summey has not had good ideas and good visions. I just have different visions, and I have a different way of meeting people and hearing what they have to say. I'm kind of like, I was a council member for the people. I have always been their voice, and nobody can ever say I was not their voice in District 2. And I would like to continue that as mayor, because I believe if you don't hear what's going on in the community, you're not going to be able to address and fix the issues that are out there.
So has Mayor Summy been able to hear what's going on in the community and actually come up with some good ideas?
I have no idea. I mean, he doesn't tell us everything that he does, so we really don't know. I see him occasionally at ribbon cuttings, and one thing I can say about Mayor Summy, every ribbon cutting that I go to that he's at, he does recognize me, and he says I go to all of the ribbon cuttings, and I try to support the local businesses, especially the small ones, because that's the heartbeat of North Charleston. We have the big ones, but the little ones, that's the ones that matter.
Yes, ma'am. So let me ask you this. Now, if you do become mayor of the city of North Charleston, how would funding be for all of the city versus certain neighborhoods?
How would funding be for all of the city? But you have to balance it out. You can't give one area of the city more attention than you give the other part of the city. And I think Mayor Summy, he did a pretty good job of doing that, because you got the senior center up on Otranto.
Right.
Got the senior center on Dorchester, and the senior center is under construction now on the south end of the city. So by doing that, he's spreading the wealth. It's good citywide. And I think that needs to continue. You can't do for one and not do for all.
But then, is he spreading the wealth to the black communities, which makes up the majority of the population?
Somewhat. Is he doing it 100%? No.
Somewhat. So where exactly is he doing that now?
Well, I think he's trying to make up for it now by putting the senior center down there. The senior center down in the south end of the city. Then you have Palmetto Rails that's going in on the base. So you've got a lot of development that's going to start coming in because of that. So that's when you're going to have to concentrate and make sure things are done the right way and the neighborhoods are not overrun by the new industry coming in.
So how do you prevent that? How do you make sure that there's equity without gentrification?
You're just going to have to meet with these developers, and you're going to have to put it down on paper. This is what we want. This is how it's going to be. And if it's not, then, you don't do business in North Charleston.
And speaking of obviously putting on paper, I know the city of North Charleston currently has $160 million in its budget, if I'm not correct. So will you, as mayor, put a line item in the budget for capital projects?
Not only for capital projects, but for infrastructure projects. We are so far behind with our infrastructure. We've got to catch up. And it's because we have state roads, we have county roads, we have city roads.
Sure.
Sooner or later, everybody's got to come together and say, it's our roads and we need to fix them so that we are not stuck in traffic jams for 2 hours every morning and every afternoon. We're not dodging potholes. If it's broke, fix it. That's what I say.
So how many potholes do we have currently in the city of North Charleston?
Oh, we got a lot of potholes. When's the last time you drove down a city street?
Oh, see, I don't drive. I'm sorry. I don't know how to drive either.
But you dodge it with bicycles too, don't you?
I'm going to have to get an e-bike after a while.
Some of them potholes will eat your bicycle now.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them are on new roads, but you have big trucks that come through, and of course they're gonna tear them up. So, but truckers are part of our society. We depend on our truckers, so they tear up the roads, we fix the roads. That's back to life.
So, how many new roads are there currently in the city of North Charleston?
We have the new road going down there off the interstate for the port.
Oh yeah.
Ingleside Boulevard, I think, is probably, that and Palmetto Commerce Parkway are probably our newest roads.
Now, so let me ask you this. How many capital projects are there right now, and how many infrastructure projects are there right now?
The infrastructure projects going on right now is just sidewalks. Although on the agenda Thursday night, there is for repaving the medians on South Rail, because the truck traffic has just tore them up. So we're just going to pave them so we don't have to worry about it just becoming more horrible than it is. But sidewalks is your infrastructure, your big infrastructure project right now, and speed bumps.
Now, how many speed bumps are needed right now in the city?
I think at last count, each council member was given 10 that they could put in their districts.
And speaking of putting it in their districts, how much money is in the budget for capital projects as well as the infrastructure projects?
Well, I can't tell you that off the top of my head because I don't have the budget in front of me, but the sidewalk and the speed bumps are in the budget. They are funded. It's just a matter of getting them done now. The capital projects that we're dealing with, of course, is your senior center. It's the revitalization of the base property down there where we put the new pedestrian bridge in. You know.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, and I hope you can hear me, but let me talk to you about that. That pedestrian bridge, you know, obviously in honor of Mr. Ray.
Yes.
So, how many times did the work order change with that prior to that being built?
I want to say we probably had 3, maybe 4 work orders that came through.
Wow.
But it's a beautiful bridge. I don't know if you've been out there, but that is a gorgeous bridge.
I was just out there just last week on it.
They did a good job with that bridge.
They did a good job with it, Councilwoman, but isn't that going to cost the taxpayers in the end?
I didn't hear you.
It is a good project, but how much is this costing the taxpayers currently?
You froze up again. What was that?
Oh, yes, ma'am. It's a good project in many people's minds, but how much is this actually costing the taxpayers right now?
It's not costing the taxpayers anything. The bridge is built and paid for.
How is it built and paid for?
Well, because a lot of our capital projects are done with bond issuance. So when we issue those bonds, that's how Park Circle's being built. That's how Danny Jones is being built. And that's how you can just keep moving forward.
But is the city building ambiance before, you know, all of these other things that the city really needs right now?
Some say yes, some say no. You know, Park Circle and Danny Jones, both of those facilities are older than I am. So I would say they needed to be replaced. Will it be a legacy for Mayor Summey? I'm sure it will be. But it's nice to know that we're going to have this beautiful playground out there for everybody to play on. I don't know if you've been out there, but the sidewalks, you can walk, you can push 2 wheelchairs side by side on that sidewalk. And then Danny Jones, when they get it done, it's just going to be unbelievable. So we've got our athletic center, and that was done with bond issuance as well. So that's how we're able to get a lot of our big capital projects done.
Now, if you become mayor, how do you hope to put residents over these profits?
Well, I will tell you, it looks like the majority of the big ones are being done now. So maybe when I become mayor, we can put the citizens first instead of the ambiance.
Now, obviously, another big issue right now with city council is redistricting. Have you been able to review that redistricting map?
I have.
And where are the changes you're seeing right now with that?
So when we talked about the redistricting, one of the major goals was to try to keep whole neighborhoods together, because before the redistricting, just about every neighborhood had 2 council members, and one council member wound up doing all the work. For example, in Midland Park, I have one side of the road, Dorothy Williams had the other side of the road. I wound up doing both sides, but I would let her know what's going on. But because I live in Midland Park, they just automatically call me anyway.
Okay.
So that's how it is in the other districts as well. The main change, I think, is District 7. Because Councilman Hart's district has kind of gone away, and that's becoming a new District 7, which will encompass the upper part of the north area.
Wow. And quickly, in 20 seconds, Councilwoman, how can the city redistrict and actually keep the character of the city in 20 seconds?
How can we do it?
In 20 seconds.
We're going to make it happen. One way or the other, we're going to make it happen.
And Zoom's giving me less than a minute, but North Charleston City Councilwoman and mayoral candidate Rhonda Jerome, thank you for your time and welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks, Quintin. We'll talk again soon.
Yes.